trying to proffer some words of wisdom from what you've learned in your life and advise the next generation to come where you've got it wrong, where you've got it right. I've been incredibly lucky in my life. You know, the biggest break I got was the chance to go to university. Like so many others of my generation, I was the first in my family to do so. As Leslie was saying, I went to Lancaster, where I'm now Chancellor. Just imagine, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. And by the way, it's far easier giving out degrees than getting them. And it really was a life changer for me, because it gave me, I guess, skills way beyond my studies. How to learn, how to argue, how to question, how to analyse. And it really did help me on my way from being that sort of working class kid growing up in a council estate to having the privilege of serving in the UK's cabinet. And I have to pinch myself every day to believe that that was the sort of journey that I embarked upon. And I guess if my experience is anything to go by, it's probable that you too will have gained here knowledge that goes well beyond your subject. Of course, if you study law, the chances are you're going to become a lawyer. If you studied management, you may well go into business. If you've studied politics, then frankly, heaven help you. Although we could do with a few good politicians, so that would be really helpful. I've been incredibly lucky in my life, but I've never really believed that where you get to in life should depend on luck, or on the chance of the family into which you're born. It should truly be about not background and birth, but it should be about aspiration and ability and aptitude. And I was certainly brought up to believe that if you put in effort, you got a reward. And many of my generation benefited from, if you like, that social contract. It existed at that time. The year that I was born, 1958, so you can work out how old I am, was, according to all of the academic studies I've ever read, the peak year for social mobility. So I really did get lucky, and many of my generation did. The problem is that many of this generation are not going to be quite as lucky. And I guess the tough question I ask myself is it conceivable that there's a kid somewhere in a working class community growing up on one of Britain's council estates who is going to end up in the UK's cabinet or even become our country's Prime Minister? And I'd love to think that the answer to that question is yes, but I genuinely fear that it's no. And I guess most of my adult life has been about trying to change that. That's why I went into politics. I've always believed that it's a really good idea that if you've enjoyed something in life yourself, it's a good idea to try to apply it to others. And it's why I still lead social mobility campaigns to this day, to try to make a difference in whatever way I can. And the truth is that if we are going to make a difference and create a better society, then that will have to rely on more than the efforts of the politicians. It relies on the efforts of all of us, whether as councils or schools or community organisations or employers, and so to universities. And so in thanking the University of Sussex for this singular honour, I also want to pay tribute to what the Vice-Chancellor and his team have been doing here to try to broaden access, to genuinely make sure that this is a university that is open to all of those with talent and potential, regardless of their background. There's often a rather stultifying debate that takes place in higher education, that as an institution you've got to choose between either being an equitable university or one that prizes excellence. And what you're trying to do, and I see it in the work that Malcolm is leading in particular at the medical school, is you're reconciling excellence and equity, not as enemies, but as friends. And that is a unique contribution to make to making a better society in our country. So institutions can make a difference, but so too can individuals. It's very easy in today's world to be deeply pessimistic about what is going on. Many of the changes that we're seeing in our environment, economy, society, politics, seem to be taking things backwards, not forwards. But genuinely every day, the thing that fills me with hope and optimism about the future is this generation of young people. You have the energy and you have the ability to change things for the better. You too can make a contribution. Of course, You're all different. You come from different backgrounds and no doubt will end up working and living in very different locations, but you share now a single common history. You're a product of this great university. And so when you leave here, you will take Sussex, something of Sussex with you. Memories, friends, the tutors you've met, the knowledge you've gained, what you've learned from your studies. But I hope what you take away from this place is what you've learned about yourselves. That if you persevere, it pays off. That if you follow your dreams, you can rise to a higher level. If you listen to your hearts, you can genuinely achieve great things. I would urge you to use those qualities, not just to make a success of your own lives, but to help others make a success of theirs. John Donne, the English poet, was right. No one, none of us, is an island. As human beings, we're social creatures. We're part of a bigger whole. We all have a contribution to make life better and hopefully our planet better for the generations that are to come. So my advice to you is very simple. Be bold, be brave, believe in yourselves, apply what you've learned at this great institution, apply it so that you can fulfill your own aspirations, but you can also help others to realize theirs. You have a wonderful, wonderful future ahead of you. I wish you all the very best for whatever path it takes. Enjoy it. You've all earned it. Thank you.